Hey Leah, alright, so here is your star seed spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where you are and the impressions that we get about this place, because this place may or may not be Earth, because sometimes we get other dimensions or realms come through in regards to being of Earth but not of the human population kind of thing. Or this can be off Earth, which honestly this feels off Earth already. So that's where we're going. I might get impressions of like the aesthetic or the landscape or whatever wants to come through that is relevant. Then over here it's what you do with the majority of your time there. It could be an occupation, a hobby, just how you spent most of your time. And then we have a first important day right here with the relationship card involved and the feeling. Another important day with the relationship involved and the feeling. Over here we get the death or the transition, because oftentimes we get more like intentional transitions kind of thing when it comes to these kinds of readings, but it could be a death as well. And the lesson, but also it could be the lesson and or mission involved. Okay, so first of all, what I would like to do is just let you know that so some things have been coming through during the shuffling. I'll get to that in a second, but do understand there are a couple of ways you could be making connections here. Direct and opposite, okay? Direct connections is when you can directly connect with what is coming right through. An opposite connection is when you connect in a way where if, let's say someone dies in a past life or another time of a fire, you can come back and be deathly afraid of flames or fire, anything fire oriented, and not know why. So just be open-minded as far as how you can be making connections, because our soul likes to experience different things, so it can be quite opposite. And remember, when you make connections or resonate with any information, to do so without forcing yourself. And if you don't connect, what you want to do is just tuck it in the back of your mind for a later time, because oftentimes a lot of things come through in like the days, weeks, months, year later after this, where it'll click later and it'll be like, oh, that's what she was talking about. So just keep that in mind. All right. All right. You might want to grab a notebook and pen. A lot of stuff comes through with these. And so let me tell you what was coming through with the shuffling. So first of all, when I shuffle, certain things may happen. Like, for example, this time, I found myself automatically counting as the times I was shuffling. So I don't do that, that's not what I do, but I found myself like almost out loud counting, and I caught myself at the numbers 37, 38, 39. Now, you can connect with this in a way where you might find that you, even in your, like if you knew when you were a baby or up till now, whatever, that you're very particular about counting it could have been when you were a kid, if you counted your toys and lined them up kind of thing. Or it could be now if you like, it could be like an OCD kind of thing. It doesn't have to be to that extreme, but where you have to double check things and you find yourself having maybe to recount things, that kind of thing. It can be particularly about the numbers 37, 38, 39 that you can connect with in your life in some way, whether you are that age, approaching that age, or if you've ever had feelings about what might happen at that age. This can also be coming up where at that age, there might be one of those, very transitionary kind of experiences that happen, like an eye-opening, evolving, like evolutionary for your soul kind of experience particular to you. So just connect however you can with the counting and those numbers. What else? Oh, another thing that came through, by the way, had to do with horses. This doesn't always connect with the spread when I'm shuffling. Sometimes information just kind of wants to get through just while we're in this state of mind kind of thing. So something about horse people, however you might be able to connect with that, and it could have to do with this. So we're just going to get into this and see what comes through. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start. All right, so first I explained this card is the where we're going. So what this does feel like I said before, it does feel off Earth. This feels like another planet. It does feel though like there is something where there is a connection to it, in the sense of the beings or people on there have a knowledge of Earth in the way that a lot of places away from Earth do, because there's something very pivotal about the Earth's evolution and the human evolution that affects the rest of the cosmic, we could say, our cosmic neighbors, right? So also, if you hear anything in the background, just ignore it. My dog is snoring. But anyway, so what I can say is that the aspect that is coming through that we're looking at here would be, if there were genders in this place with these people, would be male, because there's a masculine energy that is prevalent or dominant in this person. And so, okay, so then the being that they're showing me, and do understand that, you know, there are beings that are like known by their name, right? So we've heard like of Pleiadians, Syrians, Andromeda, all the stuff, right? There's all these like races that are known, but often like there's so many we don't know. So a lot of times instead of a name, I get the visual. So I'm just going to describe to you the look of this aspect of you. And there's something about it that looks like what it would look like to be like if there were blocks of mud that caked in the sun kind of thing. Not like it's cracked, it's just that it's dry. So imagine like a block of mud, and it's like clean mud, like the kind of mud that you sculpt with. It's very clean, and it's almost like this being looks like it's pieced together or built with those blocks of mud. And so to them, it's not mud, it's their bodies. So it's just, I'm trying to give you the aesthetic of what it's coming through. It's not like slimy, wet mud. It's like dried mud with these beings, but it's not like they're cracked and dried. It's just that it's like dry. So go Google, literally Google like a block of like wet mud, and then imagine that in a matte form, like not glossy or not shiny from being wet, but matte form with no cracks in it. That's very specific. So, why this might be coming up, quite frankly, so distinctly in this detailing of the skin, could be in your current life. If you can connect in the way of skin, identifying with the skin kind of issues. So this could be that you might be someone that's like, I need to moisturize all the time, or you might feel like I have to lotion, moisture, whatever it is, take care of your skin in some way. Or it could be that your skin is very well maintained all on its own, and or it could actually be that you have oily skin and it has to be taken care of in some way. So we're looking at basically if there is something that you know going on with your skin your whole life. And it could, and how you would know this also, it's not just like, yeah, everyone has like skin something. This would be where you're like the only one in your family that would have this kind of thing. Like where it's like, I don't know where I get this from, but this is how my skin is. So I know that's very random and specific, but it's just what's coming through. At the same time, it could be coming through just to give you a very interesting aesthetic to think about. Now, the thing about this person is they are built in a way that is very sturdy. And I want to say it is likely that I'm getting a visual of like more like mud based because of how grounded and sturdy and weighty this person is. So this being is like, it'd be like a ton of mud bricks, or it'd be like a ton, like he would weigh a ton according to like earth standards. He would weigh a metric ton. Like this guy is like heavy, but all the people are, but where they're from, and it's almost like I want to say it has to do with like the gravity is different there, where they don't feel their weight wherever they're from. That planet's atmosphere works perfectly well with them, so it just feels like how we feel here walking around, because how we work with our atmosphere, same with them. So, but if they came to Earth, they would like leave it feels like they would leave like huge footprints in the ground every time they walked, kind of thing, because of how heavy they would be in relation to how they are weighed there. So in your current life, if you hold a lot of weight, and you don't know why, maybe you are like, maybe your family doesn't and you do, or maybe you came back into a family that does, so you wouldn't feel alone in the weight, if that makes sense. Like it would make sense if you came into a family that was weighty, and then here and you're weighty too. But if you find that you hold weight, then it's very likely that this is the connection. And if that's an issue, this would be a message to not judge yourself for anything, because we really don't know why we have chosen our vessel, and it could very well be reasons such as to feel close to home, right? On a soul level, home is being one of these beings that we're talking about. So you would pick a vessel, like if you want a direct connection, it would be picking a vessel here on Earth that would be similar. Now, on the other hand, to experience an opposite connection, you might have come back and picked a vessel that's very lithe and skinny or weightless, or have chosen to be interested in hobbies that make you feel weightless. And honestly, now that I say that, it's like I want to say, if you do horseback riding, it's like riding another animal getting off the ground. This would be like if you're interested in like if you see if you've ever been wanting to do those, what's it called, like acrobatics, like the aerial acrobatics, getting off the ground, skydiving off the ground. So we want to look at a connection that you might have that makes you feel weightless or off the ground, because your soul might find it very interesting to experience the aspect of feeling weightless here on earth, where this being that we're looking at here, this aspect of you, feels very weighted and grounded. Now, another feeling coming through when I say that is the idea that in your current life, if you do not feel grounded, and by that I mean if you do not feel kind of like leveled in your decisiveness, like a feeling of being sure-footed, essentially, is another way to put it. So if you feel like you are on unstable grounds or uncertain about certain things in your life, or you feel like maybe even like you're not the best at decision making, and you might feel like you have to consult others to get like more of like a feel like, oh, okay, this is the right way to go, rather than tuning into yourself, that could mean that we're looking at you maybe needing a dose of grounding. And here is a very grounded aspect of you that may be coming through to show you that, hey, it's time to get back to your roots, get grounded. And when I say that, I almost want to say, if you feel like that might be helpful to you, to do an exercise for grounding where you literally feel like you literally visualize roots coming down out of your legs into the ground and planting itself in the earth. And then you visualizing yourself kind of like soaking in the energy of the earth, of being grounded in that sense. And that's an excellent grounding exercise. So just keep that in mind, and even like try that, see if that's helpful. But that's what I'm getting as we're talking about this very grounded person. Let's see. So let's go to what you do with the majority of your time here and see what comes through here, because it already feels kind of, this is the laborer card. So oftentimes this is like we see builders, people who are doing a lot of physical labor. In this sense, this feels like we're looking at someone who is, for lack of better words, it feels like there's movement in this, in the sense of a cyclical, like a patrol. Someone who patrols, or like a guard that guards, or just someone who like goes around a perimeter in a cyclical fashion to watch, and almost like something almost protective about it. But this feels like his job, and it feels like he's part of a bigger project, but he's not. It's like this guy, I feel like, is there because of his vessel, the body, the big body. It feels like there are others like him, but then it also feels like this is this place where he's in. He's not the only type of his type. Like, there are other kinds of beings there working together, and his race, we can say, or his species, or whatever it is that he is, there's many of them, but it's not the only one. So what we're looking at too in your current life is, if you like being in a community that is diverse, if you like the idea of diversity, if you find other people that look different, if it's almost like not fascinating, but maybe like very intriguing to you, other ethnicities, other races, other looks, other kinds of things might be very intriguing to you, just on like a very basic level, like a basic curious level, like a basic innocent curious level of just like, wow, diversity is very interesting, like that kind of thing, where there's no really it's not about judgment, it's just about observing. So if you find that you are an observer of people, and you love to observe different people of different colors and different backgrounds and different this and that, diversity in essence, that would be a direct connection, because we're seeing you're on this perimeter and you're protecting what's inside of it, and what's inside are a diverse amount of creatures, of entities, of beings, or whatever you want to call them, diversity. And so you're with them, you are allies. So it feels like there are allies in the diversity, if that makes sense. This can also connect to you in your current life if you find that a lot of your friends or your partners or partner or whatever it is, if you go towards diverse friends, people from different backgrounds from you, if you find yourself drawn to that, that would be a direct connection. An opposite connection would be the opposite kind of thing, where you're just you kind of maintain your life with similar type of folks, and that's all that's interesting to you, and that's that, you know? So there's no judgment in it. It's just like, what are your interests? Where are your curiosities when it comes to that? Let's see. Now this person, the roaming the perimeter thing, this is someone who has no fear. This being here feels fearless. So this could be coming through in your current life if you connect in a way of the theme of fear. It could be that in your life, you were born into a life where you don't really find yourself in a fear mode often, if at all. Even in the face of things that other people might scare them, you might be like, eh. It could be as simple as you might be able to watch horror movies and just like kind of laugh it off or be like, eh, okay, where other people might be like, holy mother, oh, this is really scary, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So we're looking at your level of fear, of like what triggers you into fear, if anything really, and how extreme it might have to be in order for it to actually trigger your fear. The opposite connection would be you came here and you're human and you want to experience the gamut of what it's like to be human, and part of being human is the fear. So it could be that you might have come back in or come into a life where you've set up instances where you would be placed in fear mode to see how it feels to experience it and how you react and what you like, how you react, and then looking back how you wish you reacted, and this and that kind of thing. So where does the theme of fear come into your life, and to what degree has it come into your life, or to what degree does it take for you to get into a fear mode, if that makes sense? And more than anything, the kind of fear we're looking at is not a fear of the unknown. It's like more like a fear of like a loud bang, a loud pop, a loud noise, and people freaking out, versus you might not even flinch. You know, like that kind of fear where it's more like more of like a physical threat kind of fear, I guess, for lack of better words. But we're seeing this guy, okay, this can also mean that if you're thinking of getting a job, switching jobs, looking into a different industry, or maybe you're already in the industry of security. So you might veer toward, so a direct connection would be if you know, like if you already veer towards the industry of security, it could be security guard, it could be working on like computer security, it could, any form of security, of maintaining the premises, protecting identities, protecting information, protecting data, protecting people, whatever it might be. If you are in an industry where you find yourself guarding, protecting, securing the safety of data, people, places, things, that kind of thing. So it can even be a bank teller, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it could be a security guard. At the same time, it could just be quality assurance for a computer company, you know what I mean? So where does the security kind of thing play into your life? And if it does not, and you're in a place, or you come to a place, remember things might click later. If you're in a place or you come to a place where you're like, I want to try something new. It could be a new hobby, a new career. It could be just like dabbling in something, looking something up. I would go ahead and just look into security. The first thing that comes to mind when you think of security, and kind of like use that as like a stepping stone to start. That will create a domino effect that might lead you exactly to where it feels good and right to you, because this aspect of you was doing exactly what he was basically like built to do. Or hold on, and then when I say built to do, it's also coming through about like how this creature came to be. This is really interesting. I don't know. Okay, so I don't get really like details like this a lot, which is very interesting, but it feels like this, I'm going to say like the person, okay? So like this aspect of you, this being, it feels like the way that these beings are created, it doesn't feel like a reproduction thing how we do it here like with humans. It feels like there is a piece of the planet's like crust that is carved out by beings of this, like by these beings, and they have these pieces, like the crust of the earth, and then there's something where they infuse it with like thought energy of intention to create a life from it, but also infusing it with something biological as well. It's almost like, I want to say, if you've ever heard of the God particle, like the God particle, I don't think it's that, but it's like, it's similar to that. I'm sorry if I'm getting, you know, weird and scientific and, you know, whatever with this, but this is what's coming through, and you might find it interesting. But it's like, think of like if there was something called like a God particle that actually meant life, like the life particle. These, where they're from, they take a piece of the crust of the planet, and it's not casually done. It's like done like very intentionally, almost, I want to say, in what we would consider to be a trance state or a meditative state. And they take that crust and they infuse it, while with the intention is there, infusing it with like the life particle. And from that, it's almost like they let it sit and grow, and it grows. And then they nurture it when it begins to form a more like a humanoid shape, and then they nurture it from there. This is very interesting. Anyway, so that's that might be interesting to you in the sense where, in the case that when you were young, or even now still, but a lot of times we see this in kids where they have these incredible things they do with their imagination and nature. So if you were a kid and you tried to ever construct things from mud, sand, the earth, if you ever, like dolls, if you ever tried to make your own dolls from natural things of the earth, this would be a direct connection to how they formulated living creatures here on this planet, just FYI. And if not, that's totally fine. I know that's random and specific, but keep that in mind, and make connections however you can with that, because things come through for a reason, as odd as they might be when they come through, okay? This can also mean that you would do very well to get your feet on the ground and connect with the earth. I know we talked about the root exercise, but more than that, like, feel yourself connected to the earth, to the planet. And I feel like this can bring you a really wonderful sense of alignment. And when you're in alignment and you use, we'll say Mother Gaia, you use her for your alignment in this like rooted, grounded way, connected way, this is the kind of thing that opens up your, I want to say, your communicative portal, we shall say, with more cosmic energy. So a lot of times that feels counterintuitive to people who want to communicate with cosmic energy. They look up to the stars. But it's about rooting down to planet Earth with the vessel you've chosen here as a human on planet Earth, and utilizing Earth as the tool that she is, that she's here for, to ground yourself. It's almost like ground yourself to connect. That gives you a really good connection, like a really good stable foundation that in turn aligns you and opens you up to the communication in the cosmos. It's like as below, so above. Like the, I know it's usually like as above, so below, but like here it's like get rooted down so you can communicate up. Just something to consider, just in the case that you have been interested in the idea of channeling or reaching out or communicating or making a connection, having an experience that is more cosmic in nature. Okay. Let's see. You might have a really direct connection, green thumb, earth-based. You might even, if your sign is an earth sign, that would be a cool connection. Opposite connection would be if you can't make anything grow. You don't have a green thumb. No, like nothing, like it just stays. Actually, it'd be a direct connection if it stays mud and dirt, because that's like that's like the essence that we're getting here too. So that'd be interesting, just how you connect with the earth and nature in that way. But let's see what else is coming through. Okay, so this is also a being that it's almost like they didn't need rest. So if you overwork yourself and you know you don't take enough breaks and you know you don't do enough self-care, this would definitely be a connection and a message for you to make sure that you set breaks up in your day for you to take a breather, take a bath, have a treat, sit outside, get some sun, listen to music, whatever you got to do to take a break from your work in the case that you do just keep working through and working through and working through. Because this person feels like they didn't need a break because it wasn't like wired into them to get tired even. But that can also come back on you in an opposite connection in your current life as a human where you might be chronically tired, like chronically fatigued. Because your vessel now is so vastly different than this one here that it would make sense if you did get tired easily or often. And if that is the case, definitely, again, try grounding and connecting to the earth, and that might really help. Let's see. If you are dehydrated, by the way, there's this visual of when I was talking about earlier, like there's no cracks here. It's like mud. There's no cracks. Pour water on cracked mud and it smooths it out kind of thing. The feeling of that translating to me just wanting to say, if you are dehydrated, if you know you get dehydrated easily, if you know you're not drinking enough water, please drink water. Drink the water you think you need that you don't drink. At the same time, direct connection is you know that, and you have your water with you. So just a quick little thing there. Okay, I feel like just keep making connections here where you can, and we're gonna go ahead to the first important day. So the first important day here we have the war card, which is a war that's like happening, or it can be like a war inside someone as well when we get this card. And the relationship involved, this is the soul group card. So we're seeing a group of people or beings around you with you. This is the feelings, which is joy. So what it feels like is, quite frankly, that we're looking at what feels like an actual war, and I can't tell if it's like a war of different worlds or war between regions on this planet, but there is something definitely about you guarding a perimeter that is off limits. And I don't know if it's guarding from the enemy or guarding just from civilians kind of thing, but there's definitely a region or area where it's almost like, now as I'm talking, there are other people that do what you do, and it's like guarding the perimeter of an entire region. So it could very well be that beyond that boundary are what you would consider the enemy, that there's going to be a coming of the enemy kind of thing, as I'm talking, almost like they're placing me at the point where you might even see the enemy in the horizon. And there's something about this where you are braced and ready to rock and roll, and I say it like that because it feels like that's the attitude, like let's rock and roll. Like there's something where you already feel triumphant even though nothing has begun yet, because of the confidence you have in yourself and your side, like your people. Like you feel like almost nothing can get through it, like not through the barrier, but nothing can you feel undefeatable, you feel invincible. That's the word that we're looking for here. So the soul group card comes in because it feels like these are your like brothers in arms. It almost feels like, yeah, you patrol, but as a soldier of sorts. So in your current life, how do you feel about war? How do you feel about the military? It could be that you were born, like a direct connection would be if you were born into a family or a life that there are military members part of your life, or it could be that you're military, like what do they call it, a army brat or something. I don't know if that's a negative term, and if it is, pardon, but someone that moves around because of military life kind of thing, or just living on base, that kind of thing. And if not, that's fine. That would just be a direct connection if you are somehow involved, or you and your family or family are involved in military aspects in some way. This again brings up, though, it could be security, where it's not necessarily someone fighting in a war, but it could be someone who is, let's say, on the technology side of securing the perimeter, so to speak. But that would be direct connection. The soul group card, though, these are your brothers in arms. So did you grow up where you had a small, intimate group of friends where it's just like a loyal base of friends that you have, or you've always yearned for that, or if you've ever seen it, like in movies, or read about it in books, or heard about it, or saw someone who is part of a group and you're not, that it would trigger you? Almost like, where is mine? Where are my people? Where's my group? So it's the idea of a small, intimate, loyal group of friends, And it could be the kind of thing, again, like so random, but if you like watched any of those TV shows where it's a group of people who were just always in each other's lives, forgiving each other and getting each other through and this and that, where it seems almost like impossible when you see it on TV, you know, but if that ever triggered you into feelings of yearning or feelings of like, where are my people? This is them. Because it feels like there's something that bonds the souls here when you are fighting together to survive and live against an enemy, so to speak. There's something that bonds you so much. So it could be that, and oftentimes these soul groupy people, they come back into our lives. They'll follow us, even if it's a different form, a different vessel, a different planet, whatever it is. There's a pact made oftentimes that's like, hey, I'll get your back in the next life too. So if you have someone in your life, it could be 1, 2, 3, you know what I mean? It's not that everybody clumps together all the time and moves around together all the time. It can be, but not always. But if there are at least 1, 2, 3, you know, a few people where it comes to mind where you're like, almost like, hey, I have your back, and that person comes to mind, that may very well be one of these people. Now, if that's not the case, then it could be that these people are coming into your life, and it usually, this kind of thing happens where if it's not people that you already know by this time, this is something that usually takes it's the idea of moving environments. So listen to this one. Usually there will be a time in your life where even if you've lived somewhere your whole life or for a very long time, there may start to grow an inkling in you, like an urge, a calling for you to move away to a different environment. And oftentimes it comes in the form of either 1, a job, a career, or 2, a literal like natural landscape calls to people, like the ocean. Like someone's like, I need to get out of the mountains, I need to go to the ocean, or I need to get out of prairie land and I need to go to the mountains, or I need to get out of the desert and go to the forest, like, you know, that kind of thing. So if you are feeling now or coming up a urge or pull to go to a different environment for the environment's sake, listen to that, and that usually does not lead you astray. It usually leads you exactly where you need to be to meet people and make connections exactly as it's meant to be. That propels you further on your path, like part of your mission, part of your purpose would be that. So that's where you want to start paying attention to your interior universe, your intuition, when it is pulling or calling you to a certain place, environment, atmosphere. And this can be done through job, relocation, or whatever it might. There's certain tools, we can say, that they use to call you to a certain place, but only go where you feel pulled. Don't make, you don't want to force that kind of thing to happen. So just keep that in mind as far as, meeting those people, I guess creating space for them to come into your life if they haven't already. But if somebody does come to mind that has that energy of like brothers in arms or getting your back, and these people can come in as siblings, as family, as this or that, you know what I mean? So there's no real like definitive way to tell, except for the energy and trusting that your intuition is popping someone into your head right now if somebody does show up in your mind. And if not, that's totally fine. But this does feel like a day or a time of victory, and I can't tell if it's actually a victory in a battle or if it's a victory of your mindset. And I feel like that's coming up specifically though, because it's telling you that you do have the power to alter your mindset in such a way through perspective that you can see almost anything as a victory if you look to the silver lining. And what this does is raises your vibration, which puts you further into alignment with yourself, which opens up more paths and doorways towards, I want to say, more optimistic opportunities, if that makes sense, more abundance, more expansiveness, and more evolution. So just keep that in mind with how you might be perceiving certain situations, and look for the way that that situation can be perceived in a way where you feel like you have grown from it, you have learned from it, and move from that area, like go from there, if that makes sense. And a lot of times these can be uncomfortable situations, so it's easy to fall into a victim mentality, or like, oh, I can't believe this happened, or why did this happen? But it's like, okay, I can see why this happened, because this happened here, and it changed me in this way, and now I'm ready to move on. That kind of thing. So keep that in mind and keep making connections where you can. The idea, again, just to wrap it up, is it's the idea of claiming victory without actually like specifically winning. according to the rules. You know what I mean? According to like what people would define as winning, that's their definition. You could be a winner, you could be victorious simply because you have assigned that to your essence. Period. That's how much power you have, okay? So try to like just sit with that, see how that makes you feel. Because this being here is victorious, period. And he has his people by his side. He's already won. So keep that in mind, keep making connections. We're gonna go to the next important day. All right, so the next important day here, we have the graduation card. Now this can mean like graduation, academic kind of thing. It can also mean a graduation with mentality, emotionality, physicality, spirituality. There's all kinds of ways that we're seeing leveling up, right? And the relationship involved is the karmic relationship, and the feelings are neutral. So this is interesting because we are getting into kind of different kind of territory here. So what this feels like is it feels like you and a few others, which I feel like are part of this soul group, are being called in together for a reason. And this is where this day is a little bit weird. So it feels like you're being called in, as far as the graduation goes, to leveling up in regards to your next mission. Almost like you did a good job, and it does feel like the war, like the battle, whatever it was victorious in that sense as well. And it feels like because of your, I want to say, capabilities, dedication, and loyalty, and more than anything, it feels like the dedication and loyalty to the cause or to the region or to the people, whatever it might be. It feels like you and your soul group here, these people, have been called together to be given a next level mission. Now where it gets weird is, which it just feels maybe weird for me as like a human here, but maybe for them they knew it was coming, or your aspect here, is where it's like they're given new orders that they're to take their essence or whatever to the next. It's almost like, okay, just bear with me. This literally feels like they're giving new orders to go incarnate to Earth. Like to go somewhere to another planet. I'm saying Earth because that's what I feel like this whole thing is linked to. But go to, it's like to get precious resources, and the precious resources happens to be like emotion and knowledge and psychology, because it feels almost like, I want to say, wherever your people here, for them to, I want to say, expand into the territory and almost like, I hate to say like conquer the people, but it's like to kind of like conquer the enemy. It feels like they realize that they're missing a link, and the link is something having to do with the emotional resources that we have here on Earth, like understanding the emotions, all of the possible emotions. It almost feels like humans have, based on this, what it feels like is humans have such emotional depth that it's almost like they contain all of the emotions that are very nearly possible in the universe to feel or express in their single vessel, like a regular human being. And it's almost like go there and go through however many vessels you have to go through and live through your lives to experience and understand the gamut of the human emotional experience. And in doing that, it's like almost mastering, like coming back with the highest master of psychology you can come back with. And with the resources, it can better help your people understand the enemy, or understand even the allies, understand how to work with people that are different from them at a much more sophisticated scale. Because it feels like this, at least like we'll call them like the mud people, or the mud brick people, or like your beings, your people that are like they look like you kind of thing, like these people, it's like they are lacking in the emotional capacity department. And it's not that they're cold, it's that we would perceive them as cold because simply their vessels are not, they're not like tuned with emotion in certain aspects that we would read as cold or cut off, if that makes sense. So in your current life, actually, if you might either one be highly sensitive, highly emotional, roller coaster type stuff, or you could actually be someone that people might perceive to be cold, or very, like, not very reserved, like reserved, or more observational than involved emotionally in circumstances or situations. Like abilities to cut off people cold turkey, to cut things cold turkey, and that's not bad. There's like no judgment here for that. If that is a connection, it would come from this. So that would make sense. So would too if you came back to be highly emotional. Also the idea where you might have found in your past or now even that it is like a roller coaster and it's hard to contain your reactions, reactive, emotional, reactive kind of thing, because coming from this into a human vessel would be so extremely different, you see? So however you might connect with that, this can also mean that you are someone that is an observer and you feel like an observer. You're a people watcher and you even like, it's like almost like you might even be someone that likes to watch the people who call themselves people watchers. Like that removed, if that makes sense. That kind of observation, which means it's the kind of thing where if this might translate into you being someone that would be like an excellent like private detective or journalist, investigator, researcher, things like that. So if that kind of stuff is ever pulled to you, or if you've never thought about it and you sit with it and it kind of sits with you like very naturally, like, I can't believe I never thought about that, that kind of thing, look into those industries as far as a career or a hobby or an interest, or just even as a way to know yourself at a deeper level and explore a little bit more. But that's what this feels like. It's like, okay, your next mission is to go and collect the resources of human emotional capacity so that we can develop basically our psychology department to the utmost, you know, so that we can even start incorporating these psychological, emotional, mental understandings into our people so that we can like further understand our allies and enemies, you know what I mean? Like it's just a leg up. It would be an advantage in many ways. So this can also mean that because this is the mission here, you in your current life, you can be very strategic. You can be very strategic with how you deal with people, how you interact with people. You might be highly self-aware of how you might come across to people and how they come across to you or other people, again with the observation thing. So psychology in itself might even be calling to you, if it ever has called to you, it would be because of this as well. So there's something very intriguing about this. You just might find emotions to be highly interesting in a way where a scientist would be like, these emotions in these humans are highly interesting. Like that kind of thing, where it's like you're a bit removed watching, but also because you're human, you can't help but feel what you feel as well. So how does that play into your current life? That would be very interesting to know and to see how you might connect with that, okay? Understanding too that this comes up, I feel like, as another message that being in tune and in touch with your emotions to the nth degree, to as much as you can, is a leveling up. That is a graduation. So don't be afraid of your emotions. Try to, if you don't like to deal with emotions, try to see it as just part of being human, and this is part of your human vessel and you're here to experience it, and isn't this an interesting emotion to experience, you see? So you're not attaching to the emotion so much, but rather you are more observing it, but still partaking in it, because you're meant to partake in it. You're meant to learn the feelings of what feelings feel like, as strange as that may sound. So keep that in mind, because here when you're given the orders, the neutral card is coming up because of that very fact. You don't really have a reaction or a response to this mission because you're lacking the emotional capacity to feel excited or super curious or disappointed, or you know what I mean? Like it's just the emotions here are very monotone and reserved. So that's why we get a neutral card with such an interesting and intriguing and overwhelming mission. It's just like, okay, next mission, check, roger that, whatever. So this karmic card is actually karma with your people and to return when you're done with your human experiences, however many there may be, and there's probably quite a lot, but your karma is to go back and report back with what you've learned, and you will be changed. Even in that form, when you go back to that form, you will be changed and altered because your soul has expanded with the emotional experiences that you've had as a human being. So this karma is with yourself, with your people, to go back home. In the case that you've ever felt like I want to go back home, and not meaning Earth. Or you've ever wondered, like, even when you were young, if you ever said anything, if you happen to know if your parents like told you that you used to talk about going back, going home, or anything having to do with this, you might want to check in with that. You never know, because a lot of times as young kids we're really connected still and we say things. Just something to think about. But keep making connections here where you can. We're going to the death card. So this is the disease and illness card, but quite frankly it's just how we would see the passing from this vessel to the human vessel, out of this vessel to the human vessel. It feels like it's the kind of thing where they give you something to ingest or something into your body that it feels like what it does is it just acts as a vortex or a portal of your consciousness that takes you out of this vessel and puts you in the chosen vessel. And I feel like it's done with your mental intentions as well as this substance. So it's almost like that body is waiting for you to go back to, and it's just like a block of mud waiting. Like, I know that sounds really weird, but it's not like, it's not ugly or anything. Like, it's very interesting, a vessel, but it's like being held in suspension while your consciousness does its travels and its missions. So just how you might connect with that in any way would be, well, one, it would be if you were triggered by movies or books or things you've heard where people get like frozen and then thawed out, you know, years later. Like what's coming to mind is the movie Vanilla Sky or Forever Young, like those things. Look them up if you haven't seen them or read them, and see the concepts behind them, where the body is preserved and the mind is utilized, in at least in one of them. So there's that, but then you also might connect with the idea where if in your current life, if you are allergic to certain things in the body, certain things that are ingested or put in the body, which it could be like almost like if you're allergic or sensitive to like alcohol, or if you're allergic or sensitive to certain drugs, or even foods or beverages kind of thing. But if there's something you know that's coming to mind right now that you are very sensitive to, that would be a connection. And if not, that's perfectly fine. But that's pretty much what we're looking at. Again, is I think I mentioned that before, it's not like a true death, it's a transference of consciousness to another vessel. So connect however you can with that. We're going to go to the lesson/mission card, and this is self-love. And I feel like the self-love card is coming up specifically for your current life, not necessarily for all the human lives to report back. It's almost like I want to say, and this is just one lesson, I feel like there's like many lessons, all of them are emotion based, just like we talked about here, but this one coming up is self-love, because in this timeline that you're part of right now, this is more about learning to prioritize yourself and giving yourself self-love and self-care more than anything. Like learning boundaries, learning to say no, learning not to be people pleaser, learning to please yourself. This is about self-pleasure as well, self-love, self-care, making sure that you understand that selfish is okay and it's not bad. It's just society has made it into like a bad thing, but it just means prioritizing your life journey, which this life journey is your own, and you got a mission. So if this is part of your lesson in this life, get to it, you know, start taking whatever steps you need to take in order to learn how to, I want to say, infuse yourself with as much self-love as you can, so you can learn that to its greatest extent. That's what you're here for. So keep making connections where you can with that, okay? And we're going to, let's see, the time. We don't need the time. This is the time card, but we are out of time because time's an illusion where this guy's from. It's like they don't keep time like we do. But do remember in the beginning when I mentioned the counting thing, and keep making connections wherever you can with this, okay? So there is your starseed reading. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections, and thanks for letting me read you.